What's up, world? It's your boy Trey _GT back for another episode of the G.Taylor Show. I do know I've been missing in action for quite some time, and this is a soft launch to see where this will land me at. But it is the 2026. Happy New Year to you. Hope that your year started off really well, and we're on path to achieving your goals. So 2025 was a very busy year for me. A lot of highs, a lot of lows, extreme highs and extreme lows. It's a lot. Unfortunately, for the last fall and winter, haven't been able to really record like I want to and put out content. And so, I said over the break, I will at least try and just see where it gets me. And luckily, we're sitting here recording on the last day before break ends, and just with the urge of seeing where it gets me, right? So I'm in my new setup in my new media room. Finally, I will be recording everything out of this room going forward. It has a closed door where I can kind of put a barrier between me and my kids as they run in and out, and they're already taking over my room so far, toys and stuff. You can't see that stuff right now, but my son comes in here and set up shop, his garage in my room as well, from all the cars he got. So, but nonetheless, man, I still see a lot of folks interacting with the YouTube page, the LinkedIn page, and stuff like that. So I'm not going to be on here long. I'm going to just talk about a few things that I think give some life updates. And then also kind of a soft launch into some of the research topics that I've been working on going forward in my DSW program. But for now, I really wanted to dive in on coming up on my last semester of my DSW program. I had a series where I was just talking about pretty much, navigating the space of the DSW program. I'm in my last semester. It's been 2 years already, so it's wild to think about. I'll be graduating in spring, and just super excited. And so in the fall, man, as I started a new position in leadership in academia, and then also going into my final fall semester for my DSW program, there were a lot of different things, challenges, I think that came up. And that was mostly just, personal and professional that kind of impacted where I was, and what I was doing in my program. But I still ended up with 3.5. Lot more challenging writing the products of the capstone project. As if you remember, I talked about these 3 products that you have to write in order to fulfill your capstone product or project that we will be presenting the showcase on April 28th. I'm going to be doing my showcase, my capstone project, on the 28th of April. And so, it's 3 products. And we started the systematic literature review, which is the first product, in the summer, finished that in the fall, and then we started the conceptual paper in this fall as well. We finished that this fall semester. So at this spring semester, we'll be strictly focusing on the actual application paper, and then the presentation for the capstone project, where you present it to the whole department and your friends, your colleagues, things of that nature. It took me a while to get to my my topic. Not a while, I was still in the same realm, but I had to work backwards some because I was having trouble with the conceptual paper. And the conceptual paper really, well, let me go back. The systematic literature review just does a deep dive right into what does the literature say about the topic that you want to talk about. So for me, I wanted to talk about addressing Black men. It initially was talking about suicide prevention with Black men and things like that. But then it shifted into working with rural Black men. And then when I was writing the conceptual paper, that's when I kind of had to niche down a little bit more, because I was getting too broad with my topic, and landed on 7 rural Black men, because I noticed that there's differences in rural areas in the United States, and it's not a really clearly defined definition. And so didn't know that, so I did all the research in the systematic literature review. And so that systematic literature review is a very extensive process. You got to use the PRISM model to help you, say which articles are best to use for your project and your literature review, all those good things. It really gets in depth, but it starts as over span over the summer semester and this fall semester. And honestly, you all, like, as you are going through the DSW program, which I imagine is similar in the PhD program, you write so much. I said this before, you write so much that some of this stuff becomes second nature. And so navigating the challenges of writing kind of is still there, but it's not as bad as when you first started. The problem comes in where you're trying to figure out, how do I actually find a good solid article for my systematic literature review? And I think that piece is new, because we all research in some form of capacity, especially in academia or the work that you do as mental health professionals, whatever. But it's different when you're looking for a certain article based upon a rating that you might give it that's going to be best for you to use in your literature review. So you might take 100 or 150 some articles, and you might break them down to only having 10, 15 of good quality articles that answer the research question that you want to answer, that fits the population group, and that speaks to everything that you're looking for in your systematic literature review. And so as you're thinking about your capstone project, your topic that you want to address, you're kind of still fine-tuning that throughout the systematic literature review, and continue to fine-tune that when you get into your conceptual paper. So for me, as it was a busy fall. It was a very busy fall, and a very busy fall on personal, professional fronts. So the piece of it is still understanding, like, all right, setting aside the time to research my articles, map out the articles that I would like to have for my actual my literature review, and what areas do I want to go with. And so this comes in handy if you have at least been writing towards the topic that you want to do in the beginning. And it's okay if not, but it does help as you're gathering articles for the systematic literature review, that if you've been writing towards somewhat similar of your population, or you have something similar of the topic that you want to address, and you've been writing towards it or researching towards it, you'll have this pool full of articles. Now, I would recommend, if you're doing a systematic literature review in the DSW program, that you have some form of citation manager that can help you manage your articles. Just putting your articles into your computer in a file is good, as long as you have them organized and labeled. But if you have them in a citation manager, I use Zotero. I know they got some AI ones out there too. But my thing for it was I didn't have enough time to have a high learning curve. I needed something very simple, fast, that I can pull things from it. So I downloaded Zotero for my computer, and I just started throwing my articles in there. Every time I wrote something, I had articles written out, I would throw articles in there. And I just threw articles in there, and then I started to create a separate folder for the SLR. And then as I was using the Prism model to assess to see if the article was good quality or good fit, then I would extract the ones that weren't and keep the ones that was, and made another article. So organization at this stage of the DSW program is key. I think you need to have some form of citation manager. I do think that it's beneficial meeting with the librarian. I know for us, we had a librarian that was helping us with our search strategies and things of that nature. That was helpful to reassure that I was searching appropriately. And also the understanding that it was like, it's a new topic, a new area. But I say this, man, manage your articles. Manage every article, anything that you write in your DSW program, regardless if it's to the topic or not to the topic. Have them organized in your computer. I failed sometimes where, like, I was writing something and I knew I had an article and I couldn't find it because I wasn't organized. And it just took me like an extra 20, 30, 40 minutes to find the article, because sometimes with Mac, I don't know about PC anymore, but sometimes with Mac, you can save an article and it goes into downloads, but then you try to come back and go search it, and it just magically just does its own thing. It just moves around wherever it wants to go. So regardless, when you're working this DSW program, man, making sure that you have your articles managed, that's going to be a game changer, a time saver, and an energy consumer if it's organized. Even just organizing in your actual, maybe you want to do it by class, right? You put your articles in, in a folder based upon the class, you know what I'm saying? Based upon the topic, based upon the population, but organize your articles. It's going to be so helpful. Once I sat down and because I did it late. I didn't do it till the summer because I knew the SLR was coming. But once I put my articles in the Zotero manager to manage my articles, man, it was so easy. And what happens is too, when we start talking about, I made a lot of mistakes this semester on small items, like just small stuff that I would lose points for that I was supposed to be doing. And as a professor, right, you understand how sometimes your students might not be, using what they need to be doing to correctly do APA style. But something that's as simple as like, okay, your reference page is not aligned, or you're missing like the italicized for the journal article, or you don't have enough gap in between your headings, like stuff like that. There's like commonplace APA stuff. I lost points on because I wasn't paying attention to detail, right? And so I think that comes in with the fatigue, but also just not having things organized like I should. But for the Zotero citation manager, well, I think you should have a citation manager in your DSW program from the beginning to if you don't start it in your second year or your final year, definitely start in the beginning. But it was beneficial because the Zotero Joan, it pulls up the article. You can categorize them. You can put them in different places. It gives you the citation to pull from. And also you can search by the article names and stuff like that and the actual author's name. So it doesn't feel so jumbled up in your computer, but in that manager, you can see the author's name. You can see how many authors is on it. You can see the title of the article, and then you can also see the citation as well. So for me, that was super beneficial because, again, not just have I organized my articles and they are, organized in a certain way based upon where I'm at in the SLR, but also when I go pull that citation, I'm not scrambling trying to figure out, all right, who's the author here, making sure all of that is already done for you, and you just pull it, grab and pull, you know what I'm saying? And then you just format it correctly in your reference page. So stuff like that matters, right? Because it's a lot of things. And this is also the other piece that I really learned this space, this fall semester in writing. And I also try to tell to my students as well. Obviously a DSW program, PhD program is going to be a lot of writing, a lot of research, and a lot of reading, right? It got me back to also in the space of understanding the process of writing, right? And the time that is needed and allotted to be able to write, research, and also, do your edits. So time management, y'all, is going to be your biggest key in managing this DSW program. It's not that it can't be done, but most of it has to do with time management. And a lot of it has to do with things that are out of your control, because life is going to continue to life, regardless if you're doing a degree or not doing a degree. So how you manage your time, how you set aside the time, how you block off time is going to be important in the success of your writing, but the success of your products and the things that you're researching, right? So even as I'm setting aside the time to research and write and do things, I'm always like, and then when you write an article, you read an article, you pull information out, as you continue to matriculate through the program, as you continue to write, you'll also see other things or different areas, or you might shift your thinking on how you see a certain topic area or perspective, how you value or how you see this situation and how it's positioned. And that can stray you away or continue to push you forward towards the topic. So for me, the process of setting aside the time to do certain things on the writing on these products, whether that's the systematic literature review or the conceptual paper, was very important for me. I would specifically take time to gather my articles, right? And say, okay, well, these are the articles that I want to find. And I at least want to find 3 to 5 or 5 to 7 on this specific topic, right? If I'm looking at Black men, I might say, and I'm looking at Southern rural Black men, I want to find specific articles that did, certain studies or, did some research with black men in these southern states, right? Virginia through North Carolina through, Georgia, Alabama, all that stuff like that. If I wanted to look at healthcare of these men in these areas, and I want to look at healthcare, I want to pull certain articles, and I would batch them out. So I would batch them out based upon the category. So you choose your categories, you batch them out, and then you go and read your articles, and then you highlight that. Adobe has an amazing highlight feature that you can save, and then you can go back to that article to pull it. And it actually, I believe, you can save it. Once you save it in Adobe into your document to your actual computer, and then you save it in Zotero, it still comes up with the highlighted information, I believe. But nonetheless, that's how I would, I would take a few days to research, take a few days to highlight and pull stuff out of the articles that I thought was interesting, that I liked. And then I would write based upon those different categories. That's a lot of time to take, to set aside, to research, not just writing and trying to go backwards. That's not going to help. I tried that one time before, writing and kind of going in with the article, trying to find articles as I write. It didn't work. It didn't work. And so, my system of writing my pieces is very strategic, and it helps me with my focus and my energy. And that's the other thing. It's you have to be in the mood to write. And a lot of times I was not in the mood to write, especially in the summer and then going into the fall because we're so busy. So you got to know yourself and figure out, all right, I need to get in the mode to write. Now, once I got in the mode to write and I was in the mode to write, I was writing, and I'll write for hours. I remember writing my systematic literature review. I think I went like at least 36 hours, throughout the weekend of just writing that systematic literature review. And just like 12-hour batches, I'll start in the morning and just take breaks, eat, you still got to eat, take your breaks, do your things like that. And my whole weekend will be dedicated to writing. I might start off, getting the articles together, putting the articles on the side. And then I might start off doing that. Then I'll start writing the next day. And then I'll come back and do some more writing. And then I'll do some edits at the back. You know what I'm saying? So to me, that was my writing process. I know everybody else's process is different. Now, if I didn't follow a good process or a good flow in my writing, then my scores would indicate as such. It would not reflect the writing that I was doing that was supposed to be, A-B or whatever. I did have a challenging time with the conceptual paper that I have worked with my professor, which is the director as well, to help me kind of narrow down and niche down what I was trying to do, because initially I was writing in a way that it was too broad. So that's the other thing. It's very easy, especially I was telling my guy, the group chat, the guys with the Chris and Doc about it's very easy as social workers, especially if you've been in the field, the profession for a while, to try to address a problem, but want to get everything in it that needs to be addressed. So for me, I was addressing suicide prevention. Like I was doing suicide prevention for black men in rural areas, but I was looking at suicide prevention from all levels, like mental health, physical health, environment, like racism, all those different things. And it was just too broad that made my writing broken up. And even as my professor was telling me about it, things I needed to work on, it made sense because I told her that when I'm writing it, it feels fragmented. And it feels like I'm just, going off on tangents here and there. It's not cohesive. Now, I think the last product I wrote, the last piece the draft I wrote was cohesive. It was very cohesive. I had a flow when I was writing. I felt good about it. I just forgot to put my conclusion in it. And I know I lost mad points for that. How did I forget to put my conclusion in it? I don't know. But, here we are. Like, what I'm saying? But it was flowing because I stuck with just one topic, and I just focused on mental health and nothing else. I might have hinted at, these other items that affect the mental health, but I honed in on mental health. And so one of the things that my professor shared with me that was helped me really process, that and see, and help me with narrowing down in my niche and staying within my niche of my topic was like you have your whole career still to do research on these other areas that affect what you're trying to talk about, right? So like although we know that like obviously like the physical health aspects or these other items that might be addressing for affecting black men can affect them, focusing in on just the mental health aspect keeps it narrow, keeps you in that one lane for a little bit, and you can build on it as you go. And that was so helpful for that conceptual paper because I was really stuck on trying to figure out how I can include everything that I've researched, that I've been working on, that I've talked and I've did. I know for a fact is this, you know what I'm saying? But it was just like it was too much and made it too fragmented. So don't be scared to continue to niche down, right? Don't be scared to be too narrow because even if you don't got a lot of literature on it, right? Because you can kind of speak to his lack of literature on it. So this is what you propose to make changes to help it. But it's better to be, it's better to be broad and continue to niche down versus being too niche and kind of trying to figure out how to rework it. So, but don't be scared to niche it down and be super narrow. And so I think that has helped me. And I've landed on, my preferred topic is for my capstone is addressing the mental health needs of Southern rural black men through an Afrocentric framework. And that is my full capstone. And it initially, because you probably seen some of the graphics, some of the things I've talked about in that, I was initially looking at it from a suicide prevention lens. And my aim was I'm gonna do suicide prevention, but I'm gonna talk about suicide prevention, not just from a mental health standpoint, but also from a physical health standpoint, racism standpoint, environmental standpoint, like all these different areas that a lot of us know about, but it's too broad and I don't have enough time. If I wanted to do PhD, I probably could do it that way. So, if you're going into your DSW program, you don't have your topic, that's okay. If you start the second and third year and you like, I have a topic, but it's still, I'm gonna keep working at it. You still got time to switch it up and figure it out, right? And then you still got time to narrow it down. So think about that when you are, doing your capstone project and you're writing it and you feel like you don't got it all together. It's okay. Keep writing and it will come. Keep talking with your professors, setting up the one-on-one time, lean on your professors, lean on folks who've done the program before, lean on PhD colleagues as well, because they can give you some game as well on, managing those things, but former DSW colleagues and your professors, lean on the community to help you narrow your thoughts. Like I said, I'm a big visionary person, and I'm also a person that said that also does not like to not have things included because I'm like, we're missing that point, we're missing this point, we're missing this point. And I feel like if we don't get it in there, then it's going to be a problem. Like I said, my professor was like, hey, listen, like you got your whole career to continue to build up on this. This is just this foundational framework that you're going to use to launch your career and become the subject matter expert into this actual topic. And so, and there's mad gaps in my topic. So yeah, man. So if I can offer that piece, especially for DSW program, especially for second, third year, going into your final year, you're writing your capstone project, is that you continue to write, continue to niche down, but also continue to be organized in your research and your articles, and then also making sure that you have a writing process that makes sense for you. I just told you my writing process, as far as setting aside a time, how I research, how I batch out, different articles related to a certain topic, and then how I write. That's me. That's how I write, right? So coming up with something that makes sense for you is something that's going to be very important to make you successful in the DSW program. And then you'll be done and end up preparing for graduation and setting up the last piece to present your whole information. And then you can build from that. And then also, as you are writing, you can think about publication, right? Publishing your actual papers, and the publication journals will tell you the guidelines. Because a lot of times when we, at least from what I've been told, what the papers we write in academia, like they are super long. So a lot of that the publications sometimes are probably not you're gonna have you condense it some, you know what I'm saying, for you to get it in there. So once you write those papers, right, especially with a conceptual paper and a systematic literature review, application paper, some of you, I know we did a scholarly personal narrative that could have got published, did another literature review throughout this program that could have got published. Like, you'll have pieces to either pull off, publish, continue to work through. Like, you'll have that to do. So think about publishing, because that also makes you a subject matter expert. And if you're in academia and need to publish, articles, that's a surefire way to publish things without having to start all over again. You have what you need. You just got to continue, to refine it and to make it make sense. But yeah. So I mean, I think that's some of the things that would be helpful and beneficial for folks, in the DSW program, navigating it, getting to the final year, writing the capstone project, because it is a process of a journey. And I will continue to say too, tap in with some of your student colleagues, man, the folks that's going through the program with you. Most of you all, in your second and third year, you're probably in your concentration year. So, find your group of folks that are in the same concentration year as you as well, and hold on to them, regardless if y'all in the same class or not, and stay with them as well, because then you can lean on each other. I have a small group of folks in I'm in the admin and leadership track, that we just check in on one another, make sure we're good, share our struggles, share our stories, share our, what we got going on, and help, make sure that we see it through. And that's going to be beneficial. And that's something that I was told to me before I even got there. And I leaned on that as something that's to help me out, because I have folks, in academia, I have folks who went through the DSW program, and I also have folks that are in the program with me as well, that I build up community with as well. Definitely beneficial to help you with some of those challenging times, because it can get challenging and you can make mistakes. I made plenty of mistakes writing this past year, stuff that should have been happening, but it happens sometimes. You know what I'm saying? So that's the key. And the last piece is, because I think I saw somebody post one time they got like a B in the program, or a C, and on one of the classes. And I want to tell folks, like, man, listen, B's and C's, especially, B's, I'm not tripping on the B. Like, you know what I'm saying? And that's coming from somebody who was an AB student most through high school, really got a reality check in college, and ended up with like B's and C's and D's, F's in college, but, saw his way through. Almost got kicked out of college at VCU, but made it through. Had a 1.8 at some point. But, listen, man, you're here to learn, right? And obviously, if you're not going to always be perfect, right? Even if you get an A, that doesn't mean you're perfect on everything. But doing the work and showing up, you deserve that A if you did your job. Now, if you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing in class, or you're not following directions, like, because I had that happen last summer, man. I was just, the past summer, I was doing stuff, and I was just doing it, and I was just doing whatever. Like, I'm not saying doing whatever, but I was just writing to whatever and getting stuff knocked out, but just wasn't following directions. Like, the stuff that's usually beyond me, I just wasn't following directions. I was losing mad points. So I had an opportunity to keep an A, ended up with a B because I just didn't follow directions. And I don't know why. I couldn't tell you why I wasn't following directions. It wasn't being intentional. I was just doing stuff. And yeah, man. So that was that it happens sometimes, life. And I was coming off of, like I said, I lost my cousin in the spring. That affected me. I almost quit. Thought about quitting, and that lingered into the summer. So I was still grieving, still am grieving. But that did affect my schoolwork. So that's why I'm saying the life don't stop when you decide to go get DSW. So trying to navigate that space and, keeping my mental. So that's probably why I was not as intentional. I wasn't following directions like I should, and just doing whatever, just trying to make it through and see it through. That could have cost me. That could have got down to a C or a D. You know what I'm saying? But so I say all that to say, it's okay. It's okay if you get a B or a C. I know some programs don't want you to have no more than one C or two C's or whatever. But listen, man, like, you're not going to always be perfect. You're even not perfect when you get an A. So you know, you take the C, you learn from it, you learn what you didn't do right, you learn what you need to work on, and you go work on that, and then you come back, you know, and do this thing again and over. Or if you got a C because maybe it's too much classes, too much workload, then go ahead and drop down to a more lesser level, part time. Like, see it through. Give yourself grace because, like I said, the work is not going nowhere, and you know you got a little bit more lead runway to manage how many classes you want to take and what you need to do. Because at least for us in UK, like we got, you know, the 2-year program, 2.5 year for, you know, the full time, like a 2.5 year one, then they got a 3-year one, like, you know what I'm saying, so that you can drop and you can drop down, like, you know what I'm saying, they encourage that. Like I said, if it gets too much, you can always drop down. That was an option. So, you know, just if you get a C, it's cool. It's cool. If you get a B, it's definitely cool. You pass the class, you know what I'm saying? You get an A, then you got it. But A, B, and C is still passing. You know what I'm saying? So unless your program says you can only get 1 C or 2 C's or what, like, you know what I'm saying? But if they don't say that, it's you good. You good to go, right? You know what I'm saying? If you got a B, you still pass. So I just want to tell folks, man, you don't have to be picture perfect. Ain't nobody really looking at your GPA, especially at this level. They want to know, do you know the concept? Do you know the knowledge? Can you critically think? Can you research? Can you find evidence to back up what you're saying? Can you write? Can you write in an academic perspective? Can you write in that level? If you can do that, then you're fine. The letters is just formalities at this point, unless you're really not doing nothing. And that's the whole problem. You know what I'm saying? So I just want to tell folks that, man, like, you know what I'm saying? It's not like you don't have to be a full A 4.0 student to graduate. You can still graduate with, you know, say A's, B's, and C's, as long as you know your program doesn't say that you need so many C's. You know, you only can have 1 C or 2 C. I don't know what UK's policy is. I know some programs are like that, especially MSW, but you get all B's. You still can graduate with all B's. You know what I'm saying? So just, you know, and that's coming from somebody who is very, very staunchly, who don't like getting C's, really don't like getting B's that much, but consistently like wants to stay as an A-B student. Yo, just give yourself some grace and relax, man. All right. Yeah, man, I went over time. It's 30 something minutes. I didn't want to go this long because I wanted to get to another topic, but hey, but you got any questions, let me know about the DSW program. I should be finishing up, like I said, in May. I am counting down. My countdown has started, and I'm watching the clock every single day. So I'm getting ready to order my cap and gown, hopefully in the next week or two, just to have that out the way. And then I'm going to graduation, so I'm gonna graduate and walk, and get this process rolling on, finishing out this last semester strong, and I'll be done. I'm not going back to school no more at all unless I'm teaching. So, but yeah, you got questions, man, feel free to reach out. Let me know. I can answer them the best I can possible. Now, I'm not speaking for all DSW programs, and I'm also just speaking from my experience. This is my experience. Everybody else might have a different experience, but as far as I can say, like, it has been a journey, but as you can see, it's already done at this point. You know what I'm saying? It's been 2 years and it went by quick. So if you're willing, like I said, I tell folks who think about it and don't know if they got time, if you willing to sacrifice 2 to 3 years, I couldn't do 4. That's why I didn't do PhD. Or 4 to 5. I just didn't have enough time and energy. I got kids. My kids are growing super fast. I got one that's 9. She got an itinerary that's longer than mine's. My son is going to probably be starting pre-K this year. That's going to make, you know, it's going to start. So I had no choice. I said, well, I'm going to go ahead and knock 2 years out, sacrifice 2 years, get this thing so I can be present with the family and friends. Because once he gets into school, he starts growing up, then I know I'm going to be all over the place. And yeah, and I had to deal with that with my daughter. Like, you know, as I was writing and doing stuff, like she had stuff going on, playing ball and Girl Scouts and everything else. That was still a thing. And I have my wife and my marriage. I still have to maintain that as well. Keep that up. You know what I'm saying? So it don't stop. But what are you willing to sacrifice? If you can sacrifice 2-3 years and knock this thing out, it'll go by quick. To me, it went by it went by very quick. Even though sometimes it felt like it was dragging, but it went by very quick. So, you know, ask yourself that. And then here's the other piece. making sure that your family and friends are on board as well, because if they're not, it's going to be challenging. So I had my set group of friends. I had my, my colleagues. I had my family, my wife. You know what I'm saying? The kids gonna be, they on their own time, but my kids, all my wife was on board. We were good, and I think that is helpful. You know what I'm saying? Even down to my mom, my dad, my in-laws, they're all on board too. So like, create. I know some people don't have the full community like that, but if you got a few, 3 to 5 in your corner that can help support you as well, and can say, yeah, we're down with you for these next 2-3 years, then you can do it. But you got to put a team together. If you don't, and they don't have to be family and friends, it can be like colleagues or whatever, but get some folks in your corner, get some folks at the UK, or in the program. I'm promoting UK all the time. Get some your professors and advisors in your corner. Get some folks that's going through the program with you in your corner, and that's going to help sustain you. But if you have access to the family and friends or your loved ones who also care about you, that want to see you succeed, putting them on board for that journey and that path is going to be super helpful as well to help you get across that finish line. I don't think I couldn't have done it without the help and assistance of my wife, and my wife, kids, my mom, my dad, my in-laws, my friends, my colleagues, my department, like, what I'm saying, the professors and teachers at UK. It was a community. It was a community effort. So you got to see that through. So if you can establish that and set that aside, they got Facebook groups and GroupMe, YouTube, stuff like that. They got all that as well. But I had a lot of folks in my corner that was helping me. Even the days I wanted to quit and stop, they was like, man, why am I ask the question all the time to my folks, why am I in this program? They was like, because, you know what I'm saying? So it wasn't I don't know. It was because they was like, no, it's because this is that and third, yeah. So if you can set that up, but you'll see it through, man. So if you got questions, feel free to let me know. Reach out and we can go from there. But I hope you have a sustainable, profitable, and amazing 2026. And like I said, man, let's get to it and work this thing called life out, man. But hope you had a great time. Feel free to follow me here on YouTube, the G.Taylor Show, also Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all your digital streaming platforms. We are under the G.Taylor Show. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, let somebody know. And yeah, man, take it from there, man. All right. Have a great week. We'll talk soon. Take care.